Welcome to episode 4 of the Personal Training Den. My name is Jake Anders of Florida Strong Fitness. Today we have James Alexander of No Cavalry Athletics and powerlifter. James, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Jake.
Yes, sir. So, how did you first get started into fitness?
So I got started about 12 years ago. I was 19, and I have sort of almost two origin stories to this. The first is I was in college. I had never actually been in the gym, and I knew that I wanted to get in. I knew I wanted to work out. I just didn't know how. And I came across, I was involved with a couple different like clubs that did like recreational sports, but no lifting. And one of the guys I met in the club told me that if he wanted to go to the gym too, he wanted to get back into fitness because he had lifted in high school. And I told him I wanted to get in. So we were like, let's just go together. And we always joke about this because I was a really skinny kid. People don't believe that now, but I was tiny. And this guy was coming from the other end where we always called him rotund. He was definitely on the bigger side. And I was like, this guy doesn't look like he's ever been to the gym a day in his life. So how is he going to give me advice? But I gave him the benefit of the doubt. We started training together, and for A, we became really good friends out of that, and then B, like he was the one that really taught me like how to do basic programming, like how to like hit the right tempos, how to actually train to make progress. And from there, like fitness kind of took on a life of its own in my life. Um, Between the two of us, we got up to a lot of different things like calisthenics. I won't call it CrossFit, but we did CrossFit style workouts. We did a lot of conditioning. We weren't really into heavy lifting, but more like we took a bodybuilding approach to it. And I spent the next we ran obstacle courses as well. That was a big thing that we had gotten into. And I would spend the next 3 years of college just enjoying all sorts of movement, just born out of that interaction that the two of us had in school. Middle, I had another period where I had a period toward senior year where I was not lifting as much just because there was so much going on. I was working an internship. I was also, full-time class trying to like knock out the remainder of school and, get my real life started. So I wasn't lifting as much, but I was finding that I was struggling with depression was probably the biggest thing I was struggling with at the time. I was struggling with just a lot of feelings of self-doubt. Depression was kicking in big. I was taking like two different antidepressants and trying to slowly get my way back into like lifting more consistently. And as I did, I kind of discovered powerlifting. And when I discovered powerlifting, this is sort of where that second origin story came in. Um, I did what I could to dedicate whatever time I could, even if it was just 2 days a week in the gym, on top of like classwork and internship. I made sure to get in there at least twice a week and work on lifting heavy. Um, so from there, I graduated, started working a career, still struggling with some of the like mental issues. And I just hit this point where I was like, this isn't working. The medications aren't working. I'm not feeling better. And, I always joke that I started self-diagnosing with heavy weight and loud music. And that's sort of where my where powerlifting was born in my life. I, you know, came off of the medications because I realized they just weren't helping me, and I dedicated a lot more of my time to rediscovering, falling in love with movement as well as just having something very challenging in my life that I was pushing myself against every day. And, you know, it's probably made the single biggest difference in my mental health since then. But, somewhere along the line, I kind of discovered competing as well. And that probably brings us up to speedball where we are now. So I've been lifting for about 12 years now. 7 of those were before, no, I think maybe 6 of those were before um, powerlifting. And once I got into powerlifting, I trained that for about a year and a half before jumping into competitions. And since then, like I said, that too has taken on a life of its own in my life. And that's become a huge part of my life as well. So I compete maybe once or twice a year. And I just got to this point where I wanted to start sharing like my knowledge, my experience, and share like what strength training has done for me with other people. And that's sort of where No Cavalry Athletics came into play. Like we were talking about right before this, I didn't even think it had anything to do with fitness. It was more just about, that mentality that nobody's coming to save you. You're gonna have to fix things in your life on your own. And I figured I knew I wanted to do something in the fitness space. I just didn't know what yet, so I started with coaching.
Yeah, right on. So, just so people have an idea, what was your height and weight when you started lifting?
Height, I'm 5'6". Weight, I was about 130, 135,
Okay, yeah.
135,
So,
140-ish.
yeah, is that kind of so when you were growing up, what was it like with food? Did you get a lot of food? Was it kind of hard to get food? Was it a lot of carb heavy food? What exactly was it?
Hmm. Yeah, so it's a whole thing on its own. We ate whatever we ate. Growing up wasn't we weren't, my mom was kind of health focused, but we were never into things like nutrition or even thinking about things like carbs. We eat greens, we eat meat. I grew up in Florida, so we ate a lot of fish, seafood, but there was never never a focus on how much protein we were getting, how much carbs or anything like that. It was just a whatever we could afford at the time type diet. As far as
Right on.
amount, I probably wasn't, I clearly wasn't eating enough to gain weight. So
Yeah. Yeah. So you put on the muscle mass and the size, you attribute that to the consistent weightlifting?
100%. Yeah. Yeah. Um, what am I up to now? I'm up to 195 right now. So obviously eating is a big part of that, but
Right.
consistent training across the years as well as consistent nutrition, eating the right things, eating with the intent to gain weight. I'd say a lot of probably the last 15 pounds came in the last year and a half, actually.
Nice. So with your nutrition, when did you start actually tracking it or being conscious of what you were putting in your body?
Probably not until I was well into my career, lifting career by the time I started paying attention to food. Kind of just ate whatever I could in college. I, at that point, your body, you're able to put up some numbers, you're able to get away with like a six pack without actually thinking too much in terms of like what you're eating. If you're actually conditioning and doing stuff like that. I probably started paying attention around 2019, 19. So I was pretty deep into lifting by that point. But as far as tracking goes, I didn't really, outside of protein, I didn't really start tracking until the next year, when I got more serious about competing, and that was when I got my first coach. So this was 2020, and the first thing he did was tell me like, okay, you're gonna have to eat more. You have to track your carbs. You have to track um, carbs, macros. I'm sorry, carbs, fats, proteins, but also things like paying a lot more attention to how much water I was getting, paying a lot more attention to um, micronutrients that I was getting or that I'd never even considered before. So about 2019. I'm sorry,
Okay.
2020 going into that.
Okay. So you kind of had like a kind of a mentor the first take you in for your weightlifting, right? It's like someone kind of like guide you into the gym. That's what you're talking about earlier?
Yeah, the first friend I had in college.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or like a
Yeah.
friend. It was more of like a lifting friend or
Yeah,
something.
it's just a lifting friend, and this is why I'm a huge
Okay.
advocate for people. It's also part of why I'm a huge advocate for people like starting off the gym with like partner. Like you get accountability, you're pushing yourself, you get friendly competition.
Mhm.
Um, I don't think either of us would have gone nearly as hard as we did if we weren't constantly in there trying to beat each other on a regular basis.
Right. So then you hired a coach in 2020.
That's right.
Okay.
2020 is when I
So
got my first coach.
okay. So do you think that kind of brought you to the next level by hiring a coach, or what role did it play?
Um, yeah, that was the goal of this. Was goal of bringing a coach on was, I already had one powerlifting meet under my belt that I did first place in, but I knew what the competition was like, and I knew that if I really wanted to like stand out, I was going to have to learn how to train better. And fastest way to do that was get another competitor to coach you. So, my coach is Anthony Dill. He's on Instagram as a meathead professor, and at the time he was pro strongman, well, America's strongest man in his division. Um, so to me, that was a big factor in working with him was the fact that he was a competitor as well. Like I knew if I wanted to get to the next level, I was gonna have to learn more and learn more from someone that's been to that next level.
Right. So are you currently being coached right now, or are you just kind of doing your own programming?
A little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. He
Okay.
like we've been working together since 2020, and I think the only time I've had a break from him was when I was um did a little self-coaching. I was also traveling. Uh, I was overseas for a little bit, and I didn't know if I have consistent access to a gym. But we are, yeah, still working together 4 years on. And
Okay.
then
Yeah.
on top of that, column B, I do a little bit of or a lot of experimenting with different styles of training. Like I do a little bit of uh, functional bodybuilding. Um, Try to factor in a good amount of conditioning that he doesn't program for me. Um, so I kind of treat myself in addition to the coaching that he does. I kind of do my own thing where I kind of treat myself as like an experiment and seeing what I can add to it or that won't detract from the things we're working on. That won't detract from the main goals.
Yeah, right on. So your mental health, you talked about it, depression, taking medication for it, and then you got on the powerlifting. Are you currently still on the medication?
I have not been on that for 7 years now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So powerlifting really was you like you said, the medicine the to help you with the mental side of this. So that's
It
that's
was,
pretty good.
yeah, that was a catalyst for growth in a lot of different areas of my life. Um, I figured the discipline that I learned there, I know a lot of people say you're not really building mental toughness in the gym. Well, some people say that. I've come across coaches saying that, but I strongly believe that it is a place you can learn and develop mental toughness, and that's one of the main things that I use it for.
Right on. So a huge part about all this is goal setting. You want to talk a little bit about setting goals?
Yeah. Is there, you know, in what way in particular? I think it's kind of a
So
broad question.
let's say someone's starting out in the gym and they need to set a goal. What goal should they be setting?
So I think this can go a couple of different ways. I think the first thing people have to understand is you're not going to change overnight, especially if you've had poor habits for years. the first goal you should be setting just developing is developing like systemic thinking where your goal isn't to say reach a certain weight or grow your biceps by a certain size. It should to a certain size. It should be more about I'm going to eat the protein I know I need to eat to grow, or I'm going to eat and I'm going to train 3 days a week consistently. Um, I think those are probably the biggest goals you need to set. If your goal is to lose weight, then you need to set the goals in terms of what you need to do to reach that, not just, oh, I need to drop 10 pounds. Well, if you're a complete beginner, your goal should be, I need to get in the gym and learn how to effectively train. And I need to make sure that my second goal should be that I'm consistently doing it. In addition, I need to be consistently eating the things I know I need to eat to reach that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so let's just go off of that. So a lot of people believe they can just go to the gym and just all of a sudden lose all the weight without even factoring in the nutrition.
Mhm.
So what role does nutrition play in all this?
Once you get past, I don't want to put the wrong thing out there, but
Mhm.
people always say like, okay, you can't out train a bad diet.
Right.
And I know that's not true in certain cases. You
Mhm.
can do that when you're young. You can do
Right.
that when you're like young, full of energy, and you don't have other responsibilities. I know that because I did it.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean you should. The nutrition is going to be the single biggest factor in terms of not only whether you reach your goal, but how quickly and how effectively you reach that goal. Um, you can, you know, spam cardio and just not eat a ton, under eat and spam cardio. Is that the most effective way to lose weight? I mean, it'll work if you do enough of it, but is that how you want to, is that how you want to lose weight? Or would you rather be able to lose the weight, have energy while you're doing it? If you're a beginner, develop some muscle mass while you're doing it. So eh, 70-30, 70% nutrition, 30% training.
Yeah, nutrition's huge. Honestly, protein intake, making sure your carbs and fats aren't being overconsumed, caloric deficit, all huge, all of which are usually overlooked by beginners who don't really have any guidance and they just don't get the results they want.
Right.
And resistance training, strength training, everyone should be doing it, whether you're young, middle aged, older. Good for lots of reasons, reducing osteoporosis symptoms, just functional movements, and obviously looking good.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. You don't want
big.
to
Go ahead.
not look the part. You want to look the part while you're doing it.
Right. Because doing cardio, I mean, weightlifting isn't just for the bodybuilders, for the powerlifting competition guys. It's for everyone. It's
Right.
important. So you shouldn't just be going to the gym and doing cardio only for an hour and then just expecting to be in good shape and looking good. It's just not going to work like that. So you're a pretty busy guy. How do you exactly fit your gym routine into your schedule?
Uh, I try. I get it in wherever I can fit it in. The big thing is like we talked about consistency, but yeah, I try to make sure my days look similar, especially toward the later part of the day when I like to train. Um, the biggest thing for me is just I don't even know if I would call it time management, but just making sure my time is blocked off to the point where I know like, okay, I can get my engineering work done and be at the gym, or I can get up, I can have my coaching work done, I can have my engineering work done, and then by this set time, which is usually about 4:30, I have that time just 4:30 to 6:30. It's just cleared. That's my time to go to the gym. And I'm fortunate enough to work from home, so and have a pretty flexible schedule. So if there's something that is left undone, I can get to it after the gym. But for me, it kind of comes down to having a little bit of rigidity in my schedule because if I get a little too flexible and say, well, I'm not there at 4:30 today, I can go a little later tonight, or I can go tomorrow morning, then it gets a lot harder to like actually get in there and stay consistent, especially if you're trying to you already know like that fatigue is coming and you're going to be lifting heavy. It's it's important to develop a routine around it.
Right. So do you kind of go at different times? So you'll go like if your schedule allows it, you'll go in the afternoon one day and maybe the morning's better for you. Is this that kind of how it works?
No, I try to keep it consistent. The only times I vary the times. So right now I'm in a phase where I'm lifting heavier on my weightlifting days. So I try to make sure I'm going a little later in the day where I've had time to like hydrate really well. By the time I get to the gym, I've had a gallon of water already. I've eaten a good amount of food. I've eaten a good amount of carbs, and I know that I'll have energy during the day. So right now, I am specifically keeping it to late afternoon, early evening workouts. Um, Now I will vary the times if depending on the phase I'm in. If I'm not lifting as heavy or I'm focusing more on uh just hypertrophy, then yeah, I might just go first thing in the morning, knock it out. Those workouts typically tend to go a little bit faster anyway. So I'll wake up pretty early. Was going 5, 6 o'clock for the first 4 or 5 months of this year, and then after my last competition, I was like, okay, I don't want to go early anymore. Actually, leading up to the competition, when I knew I was gonna start peaking and lifting heavier, I just decided I don't want to go first thing in the morning anymore. I want to have more food in my system. So I think what's most important there is just figuring out when it's going to be easiest to go to the gym. Like if someone's struggling and they don't know like what the best time to go is, just figure out what's going to be the easiest time to get in the gym. Like you want to reduce any friction you have between you walking out your house and walking into the gym. So figure out the easiest time for you to get there and then just stick to that for as long as you can.
Right. Finding a gym that's pretty close to your house or pretty close to your place of work, maybe on the way back from work, on the way to work. When you get home, maybe you just change into your gym clothes and your gym's right next door.
Yeah.
That's a way to be consistent. And I do find that if you set a schedule where it's like, let's say you have a 4 day split,
Mhm.
Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, you work out at 5 o'clock p.m. every single day. That's how you can stay consistent. When you vary the times, and I know it's kind of hard with busy schedules, but if you're able to keep it the same time on the workout days, you'll be a lot more consistent.
Definitely. Yeah, I 100% agree with that. Um, Routine builds consistency.
Yeah, and it's a habit at the end of the day. So if you're someone that eats unhealthy, you probably stop by McDonald's after work, get a drive-through. You're in that habit. You go there
Mhm.
at 3:30 every single day. You're in that habit. It would feel wrong if you didn't stop at McDonald's. So the idea here is to build the habit to go to the gym consistently, and then again, that's how you get the results.
Right.
All right, so your current split, what are you doing right now?
Um, I'm doing a few different things right now.
Okay.
Like I said, I'm kind of like experimenting on myself. So I've got my powerlifting or power building split, which is 5 days a week on and then 2 days of rest. Um, so for that, I have Mondays are chest days. So I focus a lot on bench press and like chest hypertrophy. Tuesdays are leg days, which is my probably my favorite day. I'm sorry. Yeah, Tuesdays are leg days. And Wednesday I rest. Thursday, um, it's Thursday. Thursday is deadlifts. Friday is I want to say Friday was legs again.
Okay.
Friday is legs again, and then Saturday is shoulders and shoulders, triceps, and chest again. So I'll run that first, and then I take Sunday off. But then on my recovery days, my active recovery days, I will do boxing, and then I've also so I'll train boxing twice a week, and then for the functional and conditioning, I will do sprints on Tuesday mornings, and then 1 to 2 classes a week where I just this is where I kind of fit it in wherever it gets in. It's just 1 to 2 classes a week. I'll do a group functional bodybuilding or uh, speed and conditioning class.
Yeah, right
It's
on.
quite a bit. It's quite a bit.
Yeah,
I
I mean
don't.
that's a lot.
Yeah, I always say like I'm an extreme person, but I don't need to coach other people to be as extreme. Like you can get results doing half of that or a fraction of that.
Right. So the importance of recovery days. A lot of people when they first get into the gym, they want to go every single day. They want to hit every single body part every single day, do cardio right after it, like do sprints or whatever. But there's many factors of why that's not good to do. You just want to talk a little bit about recovery?
Yeah, this if you set up your split right, you can train more frequently, but that also means you're gonna have to train less. But the real thing here is you're better off having more time recovering, not trying to hammer out as much as you can in a single week. Um, and often just not hammering on as much as you can in a single day too, and just giving your body time to let that inflammation die down, let your soreness dissipate, and then you know swing back through and follow up again on everything. Um, I think the most important factor to all of that is hydration and sleep. Probably the two out of everybody I've coached, probably the two biggest factors I think that impede people's recovery is those two things, sleep and hydration. Sleep being the most important one. Um, you're not going to operate as well if you're under recovered, and you're also stalling your growth when you're not giving yourself enough time in between hitting a certain muscle group or in between just like a difficult training session.
Yep. Yeah, so split's definitely important. That's what we always tell people to get on some sort of program. Doesn't have to be some crazy program. Just do a push pull legs, upper lower split, full body 3 times a week split, something like
Yeah,
that. Nothing crazy. Just make sure that you're tracking your stuff. You know you're making progress.
yeah.
Progressive overload's pretty big when you want to gain muscle. So
I
always
am a
important.
huge fan of full body 3 times a week for especially for beginners. Um,
Yep.
beginners, people that are short on time, you don't have to hit everything. Like obviously you're not going to hit as much hypertrophy work on individual body parts when you do it that way, but you can set your split up pretty nicely to where everything gets hit 3 times a week. And I think especially when you're a beginner just learning the ropes, that's going to give you plenty of growth and plenty of recovery in between.
Yeah, and keeping it simple. Machine chest press, lat pull down,
Hmm.
uh, barbell squat, like simple compound movements to start out, nothing crazy, and just make progress from that.
Yeah. I would swap the chest press. This is just me personally, but I would swap the chest press for dumbbells.
Yeah, no, I mean, just kind of. So let's actually get into that. So, like the difference between machines, dumbbells, cables, body weight. Um, do you favor one or what exactly?
So are we talking about for me, or are we talking about for beginners,
I just kind of,
or what are we
kind of
talking about
more
here?
of just um, a general view of it.
I, after 12 years, I start to see that there's not, it comes down to the person, comes down to what their goals are, and it comes down to just how you uh favorite training, how you like to train, you will get progress on both. Um, so for myself, for example, I do barbell dumbbell work most of the time for previously most of the time for powerlifting. This year we made a complete shift, and my coach and I just spent like almost 6 months straight of squat pro machine. The A lot of machine work. We use a Smith machine for bench press. We did we did do barbell bench press as well, but there was a ton of just machine work, isolation work, focused on hypertrophy, and focusing on going heavy because you can get a lot more stability while you're targeting a specific muscle group. And after about 5 months of that, we switched into a 5 week peak, and we ran that peak through, a powerlifting peak. We're working with primarily like barbell work and dumbbells again, and smashed a bunch of PRs. So I've come to the conclusion that you don't have to favor one or the other. It will really just come down to like personal preference. And as I'm getting older, I start to like using a lot more machines just because it gives my joints a little bit more of a break, and then switch into, you know, more heavy barbell work closer to meet time. Um, I I think it's more prudent for a beginner to focus more on probably have a good combination of the two, but I think it's more important to focus on the fundamentals with the barbell and dumbbell work first, and then once you like start developing solid mechanics, then you can switch over to more isolation focused work and doing more work with machines. But I would definitely say for beginners, definitely do as much as you can with free weights and incorporate machines, but I wouldn't target machines 100%.
Yeah, you see a lot of beginners go in there and just use all the machines and that's all they do. The one issue with maybe telling a beginner to use the free weights is they don't know the form
Yeah,
or how
that's a
to
big part.
dismount it, or it's like it's a called a free weight, so you could do like any pattern. Like you could be doing your shoulder press like completely wrong or something
Yeah,
and like screw up your shoulder. So, I mean, that's the one disadvantage. I do agree with you. Dumbbells are definitely important, which is why getting a coach, gym partner,
mm,
watching YouTube videos, something like that to get the form down and make progress.
yeah. For my first 7 years, no, not seven, about that 7 years or so, YouTube was my coach. Like technique work, I watched a lot of Alan Thrall videos. What else did I watch? I think Dr. Mike Israel was as popular back then. Who did I watch? I watched the Hodge twins, Elliot Hulse.
Mhm.
Um, Alan Thrall put out a ton of good powerlifting videos. People like that. Anybody that you can find that seems pretty reputable, they're good people to try to learn your technique from, because I think you're 100% right. Technique, if you go in no clue what you're doing in technique, that's probably the easiest way to get injured, and then easiest way to get right back out of the gym.
Right. And probably the one of the most common things incorrectly done is the deadlift. Just,
Yeah.
poor form. People usually have weak cores already with their lower
Yep.
back and they just wreck themselves. I mean, honestly, most people hurt their lower backs if you do a sport in high school or college because
Yep.
your ego is so big. You want to lift as much weight as you can, and the coaches there aren't exactly um, showing you the correct form, or they just want you to get the heaviest weight possible without
Yeah.
really paying attention to form.
You ever see the videos of the guys squatting in high school, and they're like holding the bar, like not even
Yeah,
off completely on their trap, but on their neck, and they're just looking up, and coach is telling them like, "Oh, you look up while you're pushing." I'm like, good God,
yeah.
don't please don't tell people what to do.
Yeah, yeah, I'm definitely guilty of that, like, in high school, just, like, barely even quarter squatting weight. It's just, you wanna at least do 135 at minimum. So, core squatting was the only way I could do it. But
Okay, go ahead. No, sorry.
no, go ahead.
Well, I was saying here's a little bit of nuance for that. If you're just completely poor leg strength, I think a hack squat is a good place to start. Because you start learning to squat deep, start developing your quad muscles, and then you can move into barbell squats. I think that would be an okay substitute for barbell squats in the beginning if you're a complete beginner. Um, Two is the trap bar deadlift and
Yep.
Romanian deadlifts.
Yep. Yeah,
Yeah.
those are huge.
Um, I honestly think at this point I've gotten to the point where I think the Romanian deadlift is probably more important to teach first to learn that hinge pattern
Hmm.
before
Right.
picking the bar up off the floor.
Yeah, like a PVC pipe, or maybe use dumbbells, lighter dumbbells. Learn the hip
Yeah.
hinge. Very important. Also, the sumo barbell deadlift could be handy as well. You don't have as much range of motion, and you could really just work on the neutral spine and getting better form, and then making progress to the actual deadlift, as opposed to what most people do: load up the weight and just try and lift with their back, and wonder why their back hurts for the next
I
10
was
years of their life.
I was guilty of that my first 2 or 3 years. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, we did trap bar when I was doing baseball, and even then,
Mhm.
we were just trying to lift as much weight as we could, and we didn't really
Mhm.
care about form. It was just load it up and see how much we can do. All right, so let's kind of more into the nutrition again. So, pre-workout food, any recommendations?
Pre-workout foods. Uh, Good question. I like to do my pre-workouts really simple right now. I do like if it'll fit into the current whatever current macros I have, I'll do a Rice Krispie bar and a protein shake. Some other really good options are um, you do it about an hour and a half to 2 hours before lifting. Sweet potatoes are really good. Rice is obviously peak. Um, those are my go-tos. Yeah. I do sweet potatoes, I do rice, and then I'll do, if I don't want to feel a lot of food in my system, I'll just do a protein shake and um, Rice Krispie bar.
So, the idea behind the Rice Krispie bar is to give you that energy, that sudden energy.
Yeah, just to get some carbs in my system. Um, a Gatorade about 30 minutes before can also be really good. I've gotten to the point where, like I said, if it's especially on an early morning, if I'm just focusing on hypertrophy, I like to get more of my macros after the workout, and I'll do some something simple to get into the gym first. Um, it's a little later in the day, I'm planning on lifting heavy, then yeah, I'm gonna want some real meals. So that's where things like the uh, rice, ground beef, even red meat like steak. It doesn't, in this case right now, I don't have to eat like very lean cuts of steak, but I'll have like steak and sweet potatoes or something like that. Like I'll prep some ribeye a couple days beforehand, then heat that and some sweet potatoes, sweet potato wedges up prior to a workout.
Do you ever eat anything during your workout?
As a power lifter, I'm obligated to tell you that I used to eat Sour Patch Kids during the workout.
Okay.
Not anymore. Not anymore. I'll have a Gatorade or something, but I don't like to eat during the workout anymore.
Mhm.
Especially, I try to keep my workouts no longer than an hour, 15 minutes, hour and a half max. Um, Eating mid-workout isn't going to do too much for me.
Right. Do you usually just have water?
Water and Gatorade, yeah. I'll blend the two, mix the two, and then
Okay.
like I'll bring my gallon jug and then grab a Gatorade and then dump that in there with it, and that'll just I'll just drink that throughout the workout.
Are you a big pre-workout guy or no?
Yeah. Um, I for a couple years there, I avoided too many stimulants, and I didn't even use caffeine before workouts. But these days, going after work rather than before class or early in the morning and whatnot. Um, Hell, even when I go early in the morning, I prefer to have some have some caffeine or something in my system. So I will use, yeah, I'll use pre-workout or just a cup of coffee.
Okay. Right on. And then post-workout?
Post-workout is always immediately a double scooped protein shake. So I try to get 50 grams of protein right after workout. Um, then whatever I have, either prepped or grab Chipotle or something, but something with some decent amount of carbs and decent amount of protein after that. But the protein shake alone usually, gets me through the next couple hours, and then I have maybe a third or fourth meal, which is some sort of sit down food where it's like the something higher in fat, higher in protein for sure. Like I'm a big fan of red meat right now, so I'll have some sort of beef and carbs for dinner.
Yeah, right on. So diets, have you ever personally done any strict diet?
I did. I did a bodybuilding show in 2022. That's probably the most strict my diet has ever been. We cut out sugars. We cut out in like obviously there's no cheat meal. There's no free meals when you're doing um prep, especially as you get closer to the show. I think at one point, like as we got very close to the show, I just opted. I talked to my coach and just let him know like I needed to switch to something else because this was my first time ever doing one, and I was just spamming chicken and rice and what chicken, rice, and broccoli every day. Maybe like 4 times a day. Chicken,
Jeez.
rice, broccoli, egg whites. Um, Very simple stuff like that. And then toward the end, like the last couple of weeks, I just asked them if there was anything else I could eat and that I could do more red meat and I can switch into keto. We didn't need to, but I enjoyed that switch up with the types of meats I was eating.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do you recommend anyone go on these diets, or would you rather have them do a balanced meal?
Um, I think I gotta say it depends. Balanced meal is usually the best course of action, but like I said, there are gonna be times where you might want to switch things up. I don't normally advise people use too much keto, but there are times where like I'll work with a client and we'll like if they're overindulging on a lot of carbs, we'll cut out a lot of carbs to the point where we run it for a few weeks and then we start backfilling those carbs then to the point where they're eating like the target amount. But normally no, I think taking a like a holistic view of everything is usually the best approach, in my opinion.
Yeah, right on. So meal prepping, do you do any of that currently?
Um, I do it on and off. I kind of have my, like cooking system down to the point where it doesn't take me a lot of time to like make a couple meals for a day or something. Um, I do recommend it. It'll make your life a lot easier. But I don't always do it.
Okay.
Especially for myself, like in the off season, I give myself a lot more flexibility. So I'll cook more during the week just because I enjoy cooking. But then, I have some staples that are ready to be heated up just to make my life easier. Yeah.
And do you kind of have an end goal in all of this? Do you want to be a certain weight and height, muscle mass, or any of that?
No, I was talking to a friend earlier about this. I just want to put on as many miles on this body as I can before I check out. Like I said, I love movement, I love strength training, and I have some powerlifting goals, but I don't know if they're the end all be all goals for me. I really want to hit an 1,800 pound total. I'm at 1,650 right now. So I want to add another 150 pounds to my powerlifting total. Um, and I think I want to get to the point where I'm walking around and powerlifting around 10, 9, somewhere between 9 and 11, 9 to 12% body fat. It's kind of a delicate balance, but I think that's a good space to be able to lift heavy, but also, venture out and do other sorts of activities. Like the big thing for me is just I don't want to be the guy that eats that has to bloat max to reach peak strength. So, um,
Right.
yeah, I want to be able to move well, be strong, and then of course I want to look the part. So I want to have a pretty solid physique.
Yeah. Do you see yourself doing powerlifting competitions? Just kind of keep on doing them.
That's the current plan. I want to do maybe once a year at least, which gives me the ability to kind of venture off in the off season and do something like out of the norm. Um, and lets me experiment with a lot of different styles of training. But yeah, I want to keep doing them over time. I'd also like to throw in at some point I want to throw a strongman competition into the rotation. And actually, come November, a big part of why I'm doing a lot of conditioning right now is that I'm going to do my first tactical games, which is blend competition that blends like running, obstacle courses, rope climbs, some strongman type movements, and with shooting. So like once your heart rate is up and after you've been moving, now you have to shoot targets. Um, and then next year I want to do a boxing fight. So
Okay.
like I said, I just love movement. I like to do different things physically, but my base bread and butter and like baseline is powerlifting. So hopefully I'll be able to continue doing them just periodically, yearly,
Awesome.
annually.
Awesome. Yeah. So since you got in shape, since you've been having a pretty good physique, you mentioned that mental aspect of this has gotten better. You're not on medication anymore. Any other benefits to working out on a routine?
Because of working out routine, it's definitely the discipline. I think the discipline is probably one of the biggest factors. Because you gain mental tools that you can bring into other areas of your life. I think you're more suited to just doing more and withstanding more with your body. We were out at this competition recently, and I was helping out with the competition, and there's no knock on the person this happened to. It's unfortunate, but it was hot out. It's Florida, and someone passed out. They weren't in shape, and they passed out, and they had to halt the competition for almost 30 minutes to address this. And you know, obviously there are priorities like taking care of someone's health is make sure they're alive and safe is more important than competing. But at the same time, like you don't see the people in the competition like clocking out. So I think you get to withstand more, your body gets to withstand more, and you're more of a physical presence in life. And with that mental resilience, you're also more physically resilient.
Yeah, right on. So with like getting hired and stuff, do you think being in shape kind of played a role in that or not really?
I have no idea. I
Yeah.
I don't think so. I
Yeah.
am by far the biggest guy in my office. I do not think they hired me though because I was in shape. Um,
Yeah.
Now, obviously, there's consider studies that show that you get more favorable treatment when you're in shape, and I do think there's merit to that. But at the end of the day, I think I, that's not a side of lifting I really focus on or care about. Did I get hired? Nah, I don't think so. I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean, maybe if let's say like you have the equal knowledge of someone and one
Mhm.
guy isn't in shape and one guy is, and it's like kind of an in-person thing, then maybe that might be the time where being in shape might help you.
What type of fields are we talking? Like, and so I'm in engineering and I do software and cybersecurity engineering
Right.
as my main job.
Mm.
And I'm working with people that are tall and lanky. How many guys my height actually? Probably the shortest guy in the office.
Mm.
Working with guys that got some muscle mass, but they're not clearly not like walking around with six pack and large biceps. They're not heavy lifters. They don't look the way I do, and I'm working with guys that are you know shoot. Put my company on the spot like that. Put my team on the spot like that. No, I've got some guys that they're bigger. They're not they're more on the have a higher body weight. We put it that way, or body
Okay.
fat percentage.
So I would say this, like maybe if it's more of a physically demanding job, that would actually make more sense.
Yes,
Like a job where you're
yeah
lifting stuff constantly.
yeah. If you were that's gonna play a factor. Yeah, if you're in like manual labor, I can definitely see that playing a factor. I can definitely see like the guy that's in shape with the accolades and certifications or whatever it takes to get hired versus a guy that's not in shape getting hired. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Just not in my field.
Right. Yeah, no, that makes sense. And then let's kind of get into the a little more fun part. What is your favorite body part of the work?
It used to be back, but it's definitely legs right now. I'm trying to become like a squat king over here. So I
Okay.
love training legs. Yeah.
And do you have a least favorite body part of the work?
Least favorite. Calves.
Calves.
Not this. Just I just unless I'm stepping on a bodybuilding stage, I don't feel like I need to work calves. But I also do need to work calves because if I want to wear shorts and actually look like I train legs.
Yeah.
Um, B, it's just there's not a whole lot of variation to training them. It's seated calf raises, standing calf raises, I guess donkey calf raises, but it just doesn't seem like a ton of variation. So it's not what I enjoy.
Gotcha. All right. And then top three protein foods.
Three protein foods. Uh Ribeye steaks, shrimp, and eggs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any particular seasoning on any of these?
Anything spicy. I like I have this I should see my spice rack. It's mostly spicy seasonings, but I like to just make everything as spicy as I can.
Okay.
There's
Yeah.
no one particular seasoning, but yeah, I like to cook with peppers, so to give it some kick.
Yeah. You just gotta find what you like and then be consistent with it. So it's
Yeah,
good
it's probably
stuff.
the most important thing.
All right. Yeah. James, it's been great having you on. Any closing thoughts?
Hmm. Uh, yeah, I think when people get into lifting, and we didn't really cover this too much, but kind of the way I train, where I'm just doing so many things. I think fitness is a strength training is great, And I recommend, like we talked about, I do recommend everybody doing it. But at the end of the day, powerlifting itself is it's just one of the many vehicles you can use to get active in your life. There's plenty of things you can do, from boxing, rock climbing, you know, there are different ways you can incorporate fitness into your life. And I think at the end of the day, that's probably the most important thing. And then if you can do that in tandem with strength training, that's even better. But, I think the most important thing is finding a method of training that you can push yourself in, possibly compete in, but that ultimately you're going to enjoy and you're going to be able to put the work in consistently.
Awesome. Yeah, where could people find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Real James Alexander, um, or also on Instagram at No Cavalry Athletics.
Right on. Well, James, it's been great having you on, and thank you for everyone for watching. We'll be back next Friday for the Personal Training Den, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah, it's been
James,
great
appreciate
being
it.
here. Thanks for having me.
Yes, sir. Hey guys, thank you for watching this video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. If you like my content, feel free to hit that subscribe button.